Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into something truly fundamental to life on Earth, ecosystems. We've looked at a whole stack of sources, research papers, recent reports, all that stuff. And our mission today, basically to give you a real shortcut to understanding this incredible, intricate web of life. You know, how everything connects from the tiniest microbe right up to the biggest predators. We know you're curious, looking for those aha moments that make complex ideas just, well, stick without getting bogged down in jargon. So let's just jump right in. Have you ever looked at a forest maybe or a coral reef or even just a small pond and really wondered how all the living things there manage to survive together, what makes that specific place tick?
Yeah, building on that, what's really fascinating and something our sources kept highlighting is how we tend to see the individual players, the animals, the plants. But we often miss those invisible threads connecting everything. Today, we're going to try and pull on some of those threads,
Mm.
explore how it all fits together, living, non-living, at the whole picture.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. When we actually say ecosystem, what are we really talking about? It's more than just, a bunch of animals hanging out.
Right, it's definitely more than that. Fundamentally, an ecosystem, based on how our sources define it, is a dynamic system. It's all about interactions. So it includes the living organisms.
Thank you.
Yeah, the plants, animals, fungi, microbes. But crucially, it also includes their physical, non-living environment. Think rocks, water, sunlight, climate.
Ah,
Hmm?
okay. So it's not just the cast of characters, but the stage they're on too.
Exactly. It's a kind of self-regulating community. Everything plays a part, from the sunlight hitting the water to the decomposition happening way down in the soil. That's what gives it its unique character, its function.
Or it's less like a static photo and more like
Yeah.
nature's biggest, most complicated team project, always changing.
That's a great way to put it, precisely. And what really defines these different projects, these ecosystems, are the specific non-living or abiotic factors involved. I mean, just think about the incredible variety across the planet. Take a boreal forest, for example.
Mm.
Sure, you've got moose, wolves, lichens, but often the really critical factor underneath it all is the permafrost soil.
Permafrost, that permanently frozen ground, right?
Exactly. It locks up huge amounts of carbon, affects what roots can do, how nutrients move. It's massive. Or switch gears completely, think of a vibrant coral reef. You've got the corals, the algae living inside them, all those colorful fish. But they absolutely depend on things like ocean currents, the water temperature, salinity, how much light gets through.
So those non-living things aren't just background noise. They're actually dictating who can even live there.
Absolutely. They set the rules of the game. Or consider the tundra,
Mm.
caribou, lemmings, living in these landscapes where permafrost and just extreme cold are the dominant features. It's inescapable. The growing season is super short. Soils are poor in nutrients, so only really specialized plants can make it, which shapes the whole food web.
Wow.
And one more, a wetland. Think amphibians, waterfowl. So much life. But it all hinges on the water levels changing. The soil is often having very little oxygen and this constant cycle of nutrients. The water itself, its presence and movement is like the ecosystem's heartbeat. So thinking about these really different places, what non-living things, maybe water or temperature or even the type of ground, seem like the absolute deal breakers in each one? What has to be there?
That's a great question to chew on. Really makes you see how specific the conditions need to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these diverse environments shaped by non-living factors.
Yeah.
But inside them, you mentioned the players. And our sources really emphasize that not all species have the same kind of influence. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Like every species has my part, sure, but some are like the superstars, maybe some are the unsung heroes, and some just stir things up.
Yeah, that's a key layer here. Beyond just saying producer or consumer, some species have this unique leverage, ecologically speaking. The research points to some really specific, powerful roles.
Right, like the sources talk a lot about keystone species. These are the ones whose impact is just a way bigger than you'd expect from how many of them there are. The classic example is the sea otter in kelp forests, right?
Yeah.
If you take them out, the sea urchins they eat just go wild, munch through all the kelp, and bam, the whole system can collapse.
Exactly, a disproportionate effect.
Then you've got indicator species. These are often sensitive critters, sort of like a canary in a coal mine for the ecosystem's health. Like maybe if certain frogs start vanishing from a wetland, it's a big red flag that something's wrong, maybe pollution or something else going
A
on.
biological early warning system.
Yeah. And we can't forget invasive species, the outsiders. They show up, maybe humans brought them accidentally or on purpose, and they can just wreak havoc. outcompeting the locals, changing the whole habitat.
So thinking about those indicator species, what's a really striking example you came across, one that gives a surprising warning?
Well, one fascinating insight from studies on freshwater streams actually points to certain types of insects, stoneflies and mayflies. They are incredibly sensitive to water quality, pollution especially. If their numbers drop or they disappear altogether from a stream, that's often a much earlier, stronger signal of trouble than waiting for chemical tests. It's like nature's own quick checkup.
Wow, tiny insects telling such a big story. Exactly. And this brings up another important point. Beyond the creatures, it's those non-living factors, again, the abiotic factors, things like the nutrients available in the soil or water, the overall climate temperature, rainfall patterns, and the basic geography, the landscape itself. They really set the stage for all these roles we're talking about. And weaving through absolutely everything, kind of unseen but fundamental, is the flow of energy.
Ah, yes, the energy flow.
It's the bedrock process. Producers, like plants, capture energy from the sun. Consumers get it by eating. And then decomposers recycle it all. Think of it like the ultimate energy transfer system, or maybe the economy of nature. Each group is vital to keep it all moving.
So it's not just about who's who, but who's doing what and who's eating whom. These characters aren't just sitting around, they're constantly interacting. And our sources break these interactions down into a few key types. There's predation, obviously, hunter and hunted. Simple enough, like that eagle grabbing a fish.
Right. Classic predator-prey.
Then there's competition. That's when different species, or even individuals of the same species, are fighting over the same limited stuff. Could be sunlight for plants, maybe territory for foxes, or nesting spots for birds.
Yeah, struggle for resources. Very common.
We also see mutualism.
Yeah.
This is where both sides actually benefit. It's a win-win.
Right.
Those algae living inside corals you mentioned, the algae get a safe home and make food. The coral gets the food.
A true partnership.
And finally, there's parasitism. Not so nice for one party. One organism benefits, the parasite, but the other one, the host, is harmed. Like some fungi that invade insects and basically eat them from the inside out.
Yeah. A bit grim, but ecologically important.
Definitely. So thinking about these different ways species connect, what's an example of mutualism, maybe besides the coral one, that really struck you as surprisingly intricate?
A really neat one is the relationship between certain acacia trees in Africa and ants. The trees provide special nectar and even little hollow thorns for the ants to live in. In return, the ants fiercely defend the tree against herbivores like insects or even larger animals trying to eat the leaves, and they'll also clear away competing plants around the base. It's amazing teamwork.
Wow, bodyguard ants living in thorny homes. Nature is wild. Okay, let's zoom out again. We've got these interactions, predation, competition, all that. How do they build up into something bigger? Let's start with the classic, the food chain.
Right, the food chain. It's often the first thing people learn. It's a way to show energy moving in a straight line. So you start with the sun's energy. A producer, like grass or algae, captures it. Then an herbivore, a primary consumer like a grasshopper or a rabbit, eats the producer. Then a carnivore, a secondary consumer like a shrew or a fox, eats the herbivore. And maybe there's a top predator or a tertiary consumer like an owl or a hawk that eats that carnivore.
It's like a delicious, well, for some of them,
Yeah.
relay race, passing the energy baton along.
Exactly. It's a useful simplification for understanding that basic energy transfer.
But useful as it is, our sources make it clear that reality is usually messier, right? Food chains are maybe a bit too simple.
Very much so. And that's where the concept of a food web comes in. It's a much more realistic and honestly more fascinating picture of what's actually happening. A food web takes those simple chains and shows how they overlap and interconnect. It's a network. Because let's face it, most animals don't just eat one single thing. They might eat various plants or different kinds of prey.
Yeah, like a fox might eat rabbits, but also mice, maybe even berries.
Precisely. And that fox might be eaten by a coyote or maybe an eagle. So instead of neat lines, you get this complex, tangled web of who eats whom, which leads to a really important question for you listening. Why do you think an ecosystem with a really complex, tangled food web, lots of connections, might be healthier, more stable than one with just a few simple, straight food chains? What happens if one link breaks in that simple chain versus the web?
Yeah, that makes sense. If the rabbits disappear in the simple chain, the fox is in trouble. But in the web, maybe the fox just eats more mice, more options, more stability. Okay, and speaking of energy transfer and things breaking down, let's give a massive shout out to the real unsung heroes we mentioned earlier. the decomposers.
Oh, absolutely critical. Can't stress their importance enough. Our sources consistently highlight them, the bacteria, the fungi, earthworms, all those detritivores. They are nature's cleanup crew, the ultimate recyclers. Why are they so vital? Well, think about it. Without them, all the dead stuff, fallen leaves, dead animals, everything would just pile up.
Right, locking away all the good stuff, the nutrients.
Exactly. Decomposers break all that organic material down. They release essential nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, all the building blocks back into the soil or water. Then the producers, the plants, can grab those nutrients and use them to grow, starting the whole cycle over again. It's the perfect circular economy. Honestly, without decomposers, the entire system would just grind to a halt eventually.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
The whole living world depends on these often microscopic organisms just doing their thing.
So thinking about all these roles now, producer, consumer, primary, secondary, top predator, keystone, indicator, and these vital decomposers. Which role do you think is the most undervalued? The one we maybe don't appreciate enough? And why? Okay, so we've got the players, their roles, the interactions, the food webs. But why does all this variety matter so much? This huge range of life, this biodiversity, why is it so fundamentally important? I mean, what really happens if one species, even one that seems kind of minor, just vanishes, goes extinct? Is it just one little blip?
Or does it cause a cascade?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crucial question. And it ties directly into ecosystem stability. What the research shows really clearly is that an ecosystem's ability to handle change, to resist disturbances like fires or diseases or climate shifts, or to bounce back afterwards, is heavily dependent on its biodiversity, its variety.
So more variety equals more strength. Generally, yes. More biodiversity often means more resilience. Think back to that food web idea. If one food source dwindles, but there are others available, the predators can switch. If one type of plant struggles with a disease, others might be resistant. This intricate web, this variety, creates redundancy, flexibility. It makes the whole system less likely to just collapse when something goes wrong.
It's like having a well-diversified investment portfolio, kind of. You don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. And we can't really have this conversation without talking about us, humans. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to acknowledge our own species' role. We're not just bystanders here. We are arguably the single biggest force-shaping ecosystems globally right now.
Yeah, that's undeniable.
Our actions, pollution, cutting down forests, changing the climate, they definitely threaten these delicate balances, sometimes in ways that seem irreversible. But, and this is important too, our sources also show the potential for positive human impact. Things like conservation work, restoring damaged habitats, managing resources more carefully. These things are making a difference. They are helping to protect and even rebuild these vital systems.
So we're both the biggest threat and potentially a source of hope.
It seems that way. The key takeaway is that our actions, good or bad, send ripples through these incredibly interconnected systems. It really underscores our responsibility.
Wow, okay, this has been a really fascinating deep dive. We've gone from, like, tiny soil microbes all the way up to moose and sharks and seen how all their interactions knit together to shape the whole planet. Hopefully you listening feel like you've got a bit of a shortcut now, a clearer picture of this amazing complexity all around us, a better handle on the hidden forces keeping life going.
Absolutely. And perhaps this leaves you with one final thought to mull over, sort of extending what we've discussed. Here's a question for you to consider. If humans vanished tomorrow, just gone, how do you think one of these ecosystems we talked about, the boreal forest, the reef, the tundra, the wetland, how might it change over, say, the next 100 years? What parts might really thrive without us? What might struggle in unexpected ways? Think about those ripples, immediate and long term.
Ooh, that's a big one to ponder. Keep exploring, keep asking those kinds of questions, everyone. And thanks so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.